Over the minutes and go directly to the public hearing. RMLD, is there a representative from RMLD? This is regarding the poles out on 62?
Yep.
Part of the school project.
Yep. Hi, my name is Vaughn Bryan from RMLD, and I'm here to petition two poles. Here to locate pole 78-1 Park Street, approximately 123 feet from existing pole 79S, and 269 feet easterly from the Dodge Road center line. Also to locate not a new pole, pole 80 and a half Park Street. It's right exactly at the Dodge Road center line, approximately 146 feet westerly from existing pole 79S, and approximately 77 feet westerly from existing pole 80S on Park Street.
Anybody have any questions?
I do, and I'm just trying to find the information here, just bear with
Look
me.
for the, It's green.
7. No, it's 7, I was in the wrong date,
Okay.
that's why. Okay, come on. There you go. I was looking at the poles, you're talking about the two poles across Park Street from the school, correct? You're not talking about the 5 poles that are now in the middle of the turn-in, correct?
Not the poles on the Dodge Street. I'm talking about the poles right on the...
On Park Street.
Right, on
Yes.
Park Street, same side as the school. We're relocating the line from that side
You're
going to
moving
opposite
them
side of the
into-
street.
The diagram I looked at and seemed to show that. Because I went over and I looked at them today, all right? And you have 5 poles, beginning with the first pole that is now into, I don't know what the correct term is, but it's in the right turn lane.
Right.
Okay. So you had 3, there's 3 there, and then there's 2 on the other side of Dodge, all on Park Street. But
Exactly.
from this diagram, I was seeing it was the 2 across the street, unless I'm reading it wrong, and I'll get to it, and hopefully.
There's currently existing poles across the street.
That's right, and they're marked, and I thought they had the same numbers, but so, okay, here it is.
They might have the same numbers because one might be a stub pole, so they usually have the same number with a S or a -1 pole.
Right,
So-
okay, so, how do you do this again? How do you stop it from moving? You hit this button here? How do you stop it from rotating?
Yeah, rotate it and then.
Okay, let's go this way. Okay, so from what I'm looking here, I'm looking at Dodge Road, the poles that you're talking about look like they're on the, I guess would be the south side
Yep.
of Park Street? So that make it across the
The
street?
drawing that we have shows 2 new poles
Yep.
Right,
across the street from,
From
right.
from the
So those are the
school.
ones we're
Yeah.
talking about,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying, okay. So it's those 2 poles that are the ones that are being moved, not the ones at this point, not the ones in the.
We are-
First of all, nothing's
We're
being
not-
moved.
yeah, exactly.
Nothing's being moved. These are 2 new poles.
Two new poles.
And the proposal is to leave the existing poles where they are because Verizon,
Oh.
the cost of Verizon coming off the poles is expensive.
It seems to be a personal problem to me, but
Well,
it's
it could be an
expensive to
expensive one
them.
for us.
No, it's not for
It's
us.
us.
it's us, it's not,
Yeah.
they
It'll
wanted
be it's at our request,
$100,000
it will be our cost.
to,
Okay. All right, so these are 2 new poles, and from what I read, they will not be on the sidewalk. I can't tell that interference with the sidewalk.
No, there wouldn't be any.
There is no sidewalk.
On the
yes, there
opposite
is.
side of the street, there
Yes,
is no
there is.
sidewalk.
Opposite
But
side.
There is a
right.
sidewalk, yes. In fact, there's a sign that says to cross over on, because the sidewalk is closed on the school side, because they're doing work on it, they say cross over and then take the sidewalk. What happens is the sidewalk ends about maybe 200 feet beyond Dodge.
The
sidewalk
poles won't
ends.
be they will be on the back end of the sidewalk.
Back end, mean
Yes.
on the property side?
No, it will be on the town right away, but not on the customers, not on the,
because the right of way for the sidewalk.
No, I understand that,
wider than-
but on the property side versus
Yeah,
the street
exactly.
side, that's all I'm saying.
Right.
Okay, all right.
And then the poles on the other side are just going to be relocated, correct?
I think I'm not sure, but I think the intention of Verizon is to move those poles out of the turning lane.
I would hope so.
I can't really speak for them, but I think that's what the consensus is.
The current poles, Mr. Chairman, the current poles that we're talking about, the Verizon is going to stay on, are those your poles?
Currently, they are, but what we're doing, we are selling our rights over to them. So it would be, intention is to give them the poles, and then they can do whatever they want with them. So we'll be taking RMLD's rights, because right now they're 50-50, as far as ownership is concerned.
Mhm.
So we're gonna give them 100% of their rights to those
Is it
poles.
50/50, or are they your poles and they pay to attach to yours?
No, it's a 50-50 ownership, but in the town of North Reading, RMLD maintains the poles.
Okay.
Which means we replace them, install them, and then we, there's a billing system that's set up from, prior to that, we send them a bill and they just reimburse us. So it's a 50-50 ownership in North Reading,
But you
but
maintain-
RMLD maintains them.
Yeah, okay.
If you go to Wilmington, it's a 50-50 ownership, but Verizon maintains them.
Okay. And the two proposed poles, it's going to be all yours?
Exactly. It'll be 100% ownership of the RMLD.
Yeah, because Verizon wants to leave, we're letting them leave the wires on the pole.
So they'll have 100% of the poles on that side by the school, and we will have 100% of the poles on the other side of the school. of the road.
And they're proposing to move these poles, and I don't know how familiar you are with their plan. I would expect you're somewhat familiar with it. What is the need? If these poles are going to remain,
Yep.
why do we need two new poles? Why can't you stay where you are?
Oh, because in order to get out of the turning lane, we have to move closer to the field, and the steel lights that are there, we got to maintain clearance away from there. Verizon has different clearances from us. We can't be that close to those beams, so we can't move any further towards the field side
Because of the field.
because of the lights.
The metal light.
The lights, I mean,
Yes.
that's what I mean.
Yeah, okay,
because of the
yeah.
lights, okay.
So that's why we have to go across the street.
And you're doing this at your cost?
Not really
No.
familiar, but I think
No.
the town's paying for
School
this.
building projects.
It's part of the project.
And the cost associated with that is?
I mean, the price, I'm not sure the estimate, I just did a petition. I don't know if Joanna did a cover. No. But I think what Kenny's the engineer who's in charge of this project, I think he saw this as the cheapest, most, best option for the town, and that's why he went this way. I mean,
Mhm.
the other option would be going on the ground, and that's a very expensive project.
So the poles that are on the school side of the street,
Yep,
those don't belong to Reading Light at all?
currently they do,
They do.
yes. Paperwork hasn't been finalized yet to submit them over to Verizon.
So then Verizon has to move those poles.
Verizon will have to move those poles at their, whatever cost it
Is
is.
that
for
your
them to-
understanding?
But we're paying for that through the SSBC project.
It's $200,000 to move the Verizon lines if we wanted to have them move to the other side of the road.
Because they don't have the materials anymore?
You cannot break their line, Verizon's line. From what I understand, they don't do any splicing with their lines.
Right.
They have to go back to a home run, I would assume.
I see.
Back,
On a straight line then?
straight line.
And you string a whole new cable.
Right. So it was a couple $100,000.
Should be added to the cost of the school project.
No matter what happened, Reading Line still had to move because of that metal pole.
Yeah, because the clearances were there.
That had to be done. That has to
Right. Again, that's being part of the school project.
But and I think the cost you got us for, or cost estimate for burying the cable was how much? 150,000?
No.
Reading, Verizon gave us a quote around $100,000 to restring the wire, and it would be roughly the same amount to restring the wire, even if you went underground, and then there would be the additional cost of with 2 electric manholes and conduit in between, which would really on the low end, without even knowing what where we'd have to route it, is around 50 grand on the low end.
So you don't, probably wind up with the time you're done.
Again, one of the disappointing things here is that, for years, we've been trying to get the wires around the school and the center of town buried.
Right.
And it certainly, if we had dialogue sooner and earlier, maybe we could have taken a different approach altogether with RMLD and Verizon, because I would think there would be an economies of scale in relation to digging the trenches and doing what you had to do if we were to keep it on the same side of the street. And while burying it is expensive,
Right.
what we're doing here is something, rather permanent, and we're adding more telephone poles right where we don't want to have it.
Right.
I mean, this has been a battle that we've had in town here for decades, of trying to minimize poles, minimize double poles. Now what we're talking about is poles on both sides of the street in the center of town. And because of the cost prohibitive nature of doing it, to me, we're taking an approach which is, again, a little late in the game, because now we're talking about delaying the project, and we haven't allowed ourselves enough time to, I think, evaluate the options. And again, maybe we would have chosen to do something, an alternative to what we're looking at tonight, and I think it's unfortunate.
You definitely would have delayed the project as far as Verizon was concerned if they had a string moving line versus just moving the lines off the pole onto the relocation. If they had to go stringing new wires, they probably would have held us up with that intersection. That's a catch-22.
No, I know, but the thing is, it's not an aspect of the project that was unknown.
Michael?
So is it too late for these new poles that are getting added? Is it too late to consider running those underground?
Yeah.
Forget about the rise ones. Those poles are there, and we're living with them already.
Construction-wise, I think it might be, I think you could get held up because now you've got to put a duck bank underneath the road of 62. Okay. To drop it down. To come up to the.
Yeah, you're gonna need
access
at least
I think we're too
two
far
manholes,
downstream of
one on
it.
each side, in order to do a pole.
Okay.
Really more than 2 of them.
And for ours, it's not, I don't think it's a big thing with scheduling, but I think for Verizon.
You don't care, Verizon poles can stay.
Okay.
What Mr. O'Leary is bringing up the fact is that we all have concerns with the poles that are down there today that exist. Now we're adding more. I'm okay with living with the ones we already have. Adding more is difficult to accept.
Okay.
So what I'm saying is, if you're telling me the new ones that are going in are only for RMLD, then let's look at what's the option of potentially putting those underground, so we don't have to have any new poles.
I don't know if you're aware, but you currently have existing poles, there's on the other side of the street,
There's
too.
Yeah,
two.
there's
That's
two, but they're
four.
further, I don't, I
So
think
they're in
they're,
between the
is-
two new proposed ones.
Right.
Yeah.
right, so we're adding,
We're gonna have 4 poles
Right.
up there, instead of what it boils down
If
to. Maybe a
Reading-
5th.
If Reading goes
Six.
on the other side of the street, or goes underground, we still would be having to dig up the road now,
okay.
and we're currently on target to get that intersection complete on about August 15th.
Okay.
Get the poles out of the road, and get the paving, so we dig up the road. I don't know how readily available electric manholes would be.
Yeah,
We'd have to get it designed. The original solution, the original design always had everything going overhead.
yeah,
It
I understand. I understand, I thought I'd just ask, though, at least be considered, that's fine, I understand, I don't want to hold this up.
If you get back to the schedule, there'd have to be a design done for us to react to.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Excuse me, I don't know your name.
I'm sorry, Joanna Crick.
Hi, Joanna, how you doing? Did I hear you say that, because I didn't pick this up before, that the poles that are in that right turn lane, you're going to actually do it, not Verizon?
No,
is-
Verizon, I mean,
Verizon
when I
is-
say us, I mean as part of the project.
Okay.
Verizon will actually, Reading Municipal, as Vaughn said, Reading Municipal will give the other 50% of the poles over to Verizon. Once
And they
their
will move-
stuff is
and
off
they
it,
will
then
move it.
Verizon will move them out of the right of way.
By this August 15th deadline that we have, okay. Thank you, John.
And it's not Verizon's intention to come before this board because they're looking to,
They're on the existing poles.
well, they're moving the poles.
But if they're moving the poles, they would have to ask, they would have to get a right of way.
No, I
But-
think if you're moving the poles right or left beyond 3 feet, then you have to re-petition. I think back and forth is usually,
It looks like they're
Oh,
more
they're
than
only
3
going
feet.
back, okay.
no,
They're just
so
moving
right and
back,
left 3 feet. That's what I was on, right and left 3 feet, you usually have to re-petition.
Right.
Well,
Back
that
and
looks like
forth.
it's more than 3 feet to me.
So you're saying
But it's
and
going
forth?
back and forth. They're not, I don't think they have to re-petition, as far as I know, if they're shifting it
No,
over.
you're saying that where they are now, if they have to move more than 3 feet, then they have to be petitioned.
So
To
the
the
left
right
and not
or
back and
left?
forth.
That's what I mean, left and right.
Right.
Yeah, left
He's
and
saying
right.
back.
So if they're going
Verizon's
back.
understanding is they don't have to
Yeah.
re-petition because of the way the easement is written for the pole.
They go, left and right, they don't have to be petitioned. Okay.
No.
No,
Okay.
back and forth.
Back and
Back and
forth.
forth.
The only other question I have in relation to the Verizon, it isn't necessarily applicable to you, but the right-of-way in relation to handicap accessibility on those sidewalks. We've had a number of issues with the poles on 62 after the Route 62 project, where they're right smack dab in the middle of the sidewalk, or they don't allow for adequate access. How are we going to ensure, and is there truly enough room there where the sidewalk will be wide enough for handicap accessibility?
Yes, there is enough room, there's enough room if we put them on the back of the curb, and there's enough room if we put them on the back of the sidewalk. Verizon still has some issues themselves with that old pole. If we put them on the far back side of the sidewalk, they would have an issue with the pole. So right now, the 2 locations for Verizon, we haven't got them confirmed from Verizon, but either location will still be able to maintain the 3-foot clear between the fence and the pole on that side.
So are you involved in those conversations with Verizon? One of the biggest concerns I have with that side of the road, all right, is a tendency, now, there's gonna be a light there, correct? All right, so there's gonna be a right turn on red, I presume. All right, right now, it has been that you do the stop sign and you look and all you see is the poles. That's all you see. You can't see the cars coming, so it's a very difficult right turn. Now they're moving it back, and hopefully that will resolve that. But depending on where they put that pole, if they put it on this side or on the street side versus the field side, okay, it's gonna make a big difference when people are making right turns on red. So I would have a concern on that. So if you can bring that to the table, I would appreciate that. It's probably better that they are closer to the football field.
Correct, I will.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I saw Chris Mumbly back there, Mr. Hayden, from the Planning Commission, about handicap accessibility.
Yeah, if they put the poles at the curb.
Chris, you gotta come up to the podium, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
If they put the poles at the curb, your snowplow is not gonna get down there, because it can't go 3 feet. So when it's got a narrow sidewalk, it goes on the outside and it gets most of the sidewalk clear, just so you know, because we're right in the school zone.
Right.
Kids are supposed to be walking down that way when they walk now. So if the pole's on the curb, you're not gonna get the snowplow in there, they're gonna have to do something else to clear the street, to clear the sidewalk.
So you're saying it's better on the field side?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
It's 2-0.
Absolutely.
Mr. Carucci?
All the poles are on the curb. They're already on the curb now.
That's right, and they don't plow
They plow.
No, but that's been a difficult
It's
intersection.
difficult, but they have a snow blower that does it.
No, at Dodge as it was, I don't know about how it's going to be, but as it was, Dodge was a very difficult corner. So was
They have a new
Oakdale.
sidewalk going up Dodge,
Yeah, no, I understand that.
okay?
I'm only concerned
All
about the poles.
are already on the curb. They do those sidewalks already.
There
All right,
was
can we
a
get
fence.
back to Reading Light?
Yeah,
Any more questions for our representative from Reading Light?
No.
yeah, no.
Mr. O'Leary, do you have a motion?
Yes, I do. Mr. Chairman, I move to grant the petition of Reading Municipal Light Department to locate 2 poles on Park Street as shown in Plan Number 1930, dated May 29, 2014.
Second.
Okay.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by
Just,
Mr.
did you
Hill.
want to, you do have a recommendation from, I think you're,
Right.
from Mr. Sorrigan. in the packet.
Yes.
So I might just want to, as part of the public hearing, include that. Yes, no? From the town engineer, Michael Sorrigan, I have no objections to this request. Both proposed pole locations as marked in the field by Reading Municipal Light Department are not within the limits of the sidewalk or pedestrian path of travel.
Right.
All set?
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Just as a matter of public record, I just want to, if we could have the town engineer and the building inspector just monitor the Verizon pole locations to ensure that they don't have to come before us, because at some point I'd like to have them come before us if possible, just to grouse a bit,
Yeah,
if nothing else.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if there's something that does require them to permit, again, I'm not looking to hold up the project, but I'd certainly like Verizon representatives in here. Good.
I'm not interested.
What?
I'm not interested.
You're not interested in? I am.
I don't know why you want to, what you're trying to accomplish with it. What's your goal?
No, he's saying he's asked the engineer to make sure they were within the,
But he wants them to come here before us.
no. well,
Yeah.
he-
If they have to.
If,
Okay.
Anyway,
Okay.
I don't
Thank you.
necessarily, I'm not just
Thank
going
you
to
very
take
much,
their word
gentlemen.
for it.
Right. Thank you, Jim.
thank you. Okay, let's see. Why don't we discuss, we'll do the minutes at the end, discuss the J.T. Berry Center property. Who's leading off? Mr. Briscoe or?
Mr. Chair, pledge of allegiance.
Yeah, we didn't do the pledge,
No.
did we?
We did not, we were going to say that, but. we-
Well, no, that's okay. No, it's
Shall we
never
do
too
that?
late.
It's never too late
We
to
try
salute
to
the
pledge.
flag. You bet.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Never
Thank
late
you
than
for
never.
reminding me.
Chris, come on up. And you can move the microphone onto the desk right here, and then you can sit down. Make it easy for you.
Sign in two places. Pass it there.
Anywhere?
And who's going to start this off?
I am.
Berry property.
Michael?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to address the board on this subject tonight. For about the last 6-7 months, Danielle, Chris Hayden, myself, we've really been trying to spend some time on new opportunities for town, business development for town, economic development for the town. And obviously, one of the big areas that is sticking out there is the Old Berry property. That's been under the Gutierrez control with the Department of Capital Asset Management for many, many years. DCAMS has given them multiple extensions on their proposal to buy the property, on their PNS to buy the property. Back in 2012, Gutierrez decided to no longer go in an extension. They turned the property back over to the state. So it's been sitting idle. For 6-7 months, we've been begging and begging to get a meeting with DCAMS just to find out what their plan is. Because, for the town of North Reading, you got over 40 acres of property with no tax revenue on it. So it was nice enough of Senator Bruce Tarr to arrange a meeting with DCAM, and it was a fantastic meeting. About 6 members of DCAM showed up. One individual, Mary Beth Clancy, who'd been working with the town of North Reading when the original property was sold to Lincoln Properties. She participated in that. She was still around and still very knowledgeable, and she attended the meeting and was a great help. So I had asked if we could at least get from them what their plan is. And we also emphasized that we would like to be part of the decision or part of the discussion on what happens with the property. At that time, they said, well, things have changed since we sold that larger portion to the Lincoln Properties, how we do things. They said now let me back up. First, they agreed. They're all in agreement that, yes, this is a good time to do something with that property. Their research comes back and says, yes, this is a good time to sell that property. The way things are, the way they see this type of property selling right now, it is a good time for them to do something with it. There's 3 options for the town of North Reading in regards to this piece of property. And don't forget, a small portion of it is in Wilmington as well. So whatever we do, we have to continue our communications with Wilmington. So the first option is let them continue what they did with Gutierrez. They can follow that same process, put out an RFP, and basically put the property out there for someone to come in and give bids. That's option 1. And that's that legislation, that process has been approved through the legislation many years ago, and that still exists as is. We get 20% of the sale. But the only problem with that process is that we have no control of what goes into the 44 acres. They have a new option, which is the number 2, and it's called the sale partnership model, which I particularly like. And how the sale partnership model works is they have a lot of sunk cost into that property to get it to where it is now. And the way the sale partnership model works is that they will go back and look at their cost, out-of-pocket cost, sunk cost, and they charge North Reading a portion of that. And then we pay that portion, whatever that number is going to be. And they're working on that right now. When we pay them that, we take control of the property, and then we go out and sell the property with DCAM in assistance with us. All their technicians and experts are with us through the whole process. Also, the business development, the state business development office, Peter Milano's office, will also be assisting us in the process of selling the property. We take it over. We sell the property, we get 50% of the proceeds. They get the other 50%. But there is also another part of this sale partnership model that's called this redevelopment milestones, where we can get up to an additional 20% if we implement some of these redevelopment milestones. And I went through them. I emailed them to everybody. I hope you had an opportunity to read them. I think we can get at least another 10%, conservatively speaking, right? And maybe even a little bit more. But just conservatively speaking, we would get 60% of that sale. I think I like this option. I like that now we have control of it. The only, obviously, the big question is what is that portion of the sunk cost going to be? I did reach out to Brad Jones because I know he was very actively involved in it when the Lincoln Properties was purchasing the initial portion. He, in his paperwork, it shows that all the sunk cost at that time, when the sale of the property was completed with Lincoln Properties, 100% of the sunk cost were taken from DCAMs. And then our 20% split we received from the remaining portion. So he feels pretty confident that since the sale to Lincoln Properties till now, there probably hasn't been a significant amount of sunk cost into the property. Like I said, Mrs. Mary Beth Clancy is working on that number for us. She is on vacation until the 12th of July, so I am sure and very confident that shortly after the 12th of July, I will get that information from her. The reason why I want to bring it up right now without that number is that we have October town meeting coming up. And for us to really meet this timeline, if we're interested in doing this and following this second option, the sale partnership model, we're going to have to go to October town meeting and get the money for the sunk cost. I'm hoping that it's a very small number based on what my understanding is from my discussion with Brad Jones. But we'll see. So that's the second option. And then the third option, which nobody in the room really had a lot of stomach for, was the auction. Basically, very similar to the first option, except the notice goes out to all state agencies first to see if they have use for the property. And then it basically becomes an auction to see who wants it and use it for state use. Everybody was pretty much in the room, at least at that time, was very interested in the second option, the sale partnership model, and I am as well. And Danielle joined me in the meeting, so I'm going to give you an opportunity to chime in and catch some of the areas where I missed, and then I'd like to open it up to some questions as well.
Sure. Well, I think you really covered everything that we talked about in the meeting. I think that sums it up very well. I agree that I also had the sense during the meeting that DCAM seemed motivated to help us through this, that they would be very willing to help us through the process, and that everyone did seem to think that the sale partnership option could be very promising, and that it would give the town the greatest amount of control, certainly over the end product. Of course, as you mentioned, we don't know yet what the amount of money would be for what we would owe for the sunk costs.
Right.
But at the same time, I think they did point out that there were some financing options that could be very attractive for the town. I think there was a 10-year interest-free repayment plan.
Great
There
point.
were, I think they would try to help us make it as painless as possible so that we weren't going to town meeting with an outlandish request. But I think it sounds very promising, very exciting. I was encouraged to see that they were so willing to move. I should say that, CPC hasn't met since we had that meeting with Senator Tarr, so I haven't had a chance to have a full discussion with the board, but I did pass along the information that you put together, and Chris and I have talked about it. I think Chris also feels this could be a
Yeah.
very good option.
Yeah.
It seems to be a good option. And talking about percentages, Mike, we've already got a 2.5% because we have it's a 43D right
Right.
there. So
Right. We
we've
told
already
them
got
that.
2.5% in the bucket
Yeah.
to start with, so.
Yeah, that's the expedited permitting, right?
The expedited
Just for those
permitting.
who may
And we
not
did
know what that is.
We did that back when 43D came
Yeah.
out, before Lincoln Properties got in there.
Right.
So we're already ahead. So whatever they come up with, they're gonna have to give us 2.5% extra, which is nice.
Just from a numbers perspective, so people just remember, under the Gutierrez deal, the town was gonna get around roughly 800 grand, maybe 830. So that was at 20% of the sale. So in this particular case, if we can get 50 or 60% with some upfront investment in that sunk cost, I still think it's a very, very good investment for the town. Big picture view on it is, now we have a tax revenue for forever. That's really what our ultimate goal should be. I'm not so concerned about the money up front, but it's nice to have. So we're gonna work, or I'd like to work as hard as I can to get a larger number as we can. But let's think big picture here. This is good for the town going long term. We need new revenues, and this is a great start to that.
Ms. Steele?
Yes. For the benefit of me and perhaps the listeners, what exactly is a sunk cost?
So if they, and maybe you all can jump in and help me, and I'm sure Steve has some input on this as well. My understanding of the sunk cost, they had some legal bills they had to pay to manage with Gutierrez over the time. If they had some advertising, maintenance on the property, security on the property, any of those types of things are a sunk cost.
And they start from when and would end?
Well, that's what we're trying to find out. And like I said, going back to Representative Jones' files, he believes that the sunk cost at the time that the property was sold to Lincoln, all 100% of their sunk cost at that time was taken care of. So
being
whatever,
the starting date, yeah.
That's my understanding, too.
so
Right.
the sunk cost that they have now, and that's what Mary Beth is looking into, would be from that time till now, which cannot be a lot.
No, they haven't had security on site since
They
Lincoln Properties went in.
That's right.
And Lincoln Properties is where all the buildings were.
Right.
So that's what they were securing. They didn't want people to get in and get hurt. So once those buildings came down, the state really didn't have too much of an interest to spend money. I mean, the property was already fenced, so Lincoln Properties, secured it from there,
And I will
believe.
point this out, I don't know this for a fact, but the Gutierrez had a deposit on their bid. They now waived that. The state kept it. So they were able to capture some of their sunk costs from what money they received from Gutierrez from pulling out of the project. So that all plays in the equation. That's what they're going back and looking at as well.
The other question I had is it possible, because you mentioned business development and Peter Milano, is there any way to have, is there a benefit to having Peter come in at our next meeting and share with us, so we can hear from him, what his perspectives are and how he can help us with this program. And also, I know you've had a conversation with Brad Jones, but can Brad put something in writing to us to kind of give us some definitive direction on the past and the present, so we can have that on the file?
Well, I don't think that's necessary, because it doesn't really matter what Brad thinks or feels or what he has in his files. What really matters is what DCAM has and what they're gonna provide. So I really don't wanna ask Brad to go and put something together that really won't have a lot. I mean, he's just giving a
Okay.
fact, just like Mr.
Okay.
Misery, just a, his recollection. It's a recollection.
Right. Oh,
And
okay.
he has files
That's fine.
he can dig through and all, but none of it's really gonna matter because Brad hasn't been involved in it since the Lincoln property's taken over. So he would really have no idea of what sunk costs have accrued up till now.
I think you use him after you get the sunk cost
Correct.
figure. and
Exactly.
If you,
Okay,
if
Correct.
it doesn't
Use
seem
leverage.
right, then we,
Right.
right.
Get a
Then-
clarification on the
Right.
number.
Exactly,
In
yeah,
regards to-
use Mr. Jones for the leverage after, just say, this doesn't seem right.
Jeff, I agree with you that at some point, it would be nice to have Mr. Milano come in, but I'm not sure this is the right time unless the board really feels strongly to have him come at this time. I'd like to kind of focus on the sunk cost discussion, see what that is, and give you guys an opportunity to really see if you have the stomach to do this. We've never done anything like this before, that I can remember. So I think we have to address
I
this.
do have a question regarding option 2, and that is, does the state maintain ownership of that property?
No.
Under the second option, once we pay the sunk cost portion that they're talking about,
Yeah.
we now take control of the property.
Well, control and ownership. are
Yeah,
two
that's the
different things.
question.
Okay, great, I will ask the
Yeah,
question.
just,
Because you still have to pay them.
We acquire title, so you tell me what that means.
So if we acquire title, then
Yeah, then I
we
would
have
assume that's
ownership.
ownership.
But
That's
but
what it says.
they have to have, they have to still own something in it, because we have to pay them.
No, that's what this sale partnership agreement is. We
Okay.
basically sign an MOA with them,
Yeah.
that we're gonna agree to give them 50%.
50% after the fact.
Right,
Okay.
or less, based on
Right.
what we do with the redevelopment milestones.
okay, so that, another point downstream that needs to be clarified, and you mentioned it,
Right.
is a piece of that land is Wilmington's.
So
So,
Representative Jones is actually meeting with his counterpart, his contact in Wilmington. He's probably meeting with them maybe this week or next week. We still have to honor the agreement with Wilmington. That means their portion of the property, we cannot do any development in. And they're also going to get a proceed of these sales.
Who's that? Sorry.
Wilmington.
Wilmington.
Whatever the deal was with Wilmington, we have to honor that. And we're gonna have to work that out in this MOA, essentially, that we're putting together.
It's not a lot.
Basically, under the agreement, Michael, that you had sent us, it states that this allows the town to control the end use of the property, destiny of the property. The town may acquire title to the property on an unrestricted use basis by paying the state a portion of its sunk cost. Unrestricted use allows the town to, 1, retain the property or portions thereof for direct public use, or sell the property or portions of to a private developer. So it doesn't appear as though they have any concern as to what the end use is going to be.
But they don't.
No,
That's what,
because at this point, it gets turned over to the town, and just like they weren't overly concerned as far as what happened on the other property. They went through the local process here, we rezoned it, and then we determined what would be a permitted use.
Right.
And worked with them on that, so.
right.
so if we were to pay the sunk cost and turn that into just public open space, right? Not that I'm suggesting we do that.
Right.
Does that suggest we wouldn't have to pay the town, the state anything?
Right, because you're not making any money on
Are they
it.
making
No,
money on
that's,
that?
that's,
No,
Is that
they
wrong,
want to cover
Mike?
their sunk
no.
costs.
No,
Portion of their sunk-
the sunk cost
And
comes
then
first.
you get to decide, you're right, and then you get to decide what you want to do with it.
So if we kept it for town use only, not that I'm pressing this, then they would get nothing. They only get it if, in fact,
Do
we
something.
sell it.
But I bet what they'd ask, require us to do that, if you're going to do that, that you do that you evergreen it, meaning
I
that
doubt
you
it.
don't,
I doubt it, they're just gonna retain their
because then,
interest.
yeah, but,
So if you do it 20 years, 30 years, 50 years down the road, they're gonna get their piece of the pie. They'll wait.
right, that's right. If we decide to move it and turn it into industrial use or commercial use, they're gonna want, at that point, they're gonna want something, I would think.
There's some definitions in that information you sent us,
And
Mike.
I was gonna say,
Unrestricted use, I'm quoting.
Right,
Town may retain the property or portions of for a direct public use or sell the property or portions of to a private developer.
yeah, but
So, and
takes
what we
into-
had talked about
It's their choice.
yeah,
over
but
the
what
weekend, Bob.
affects it is those redevelopment milestones.
Right.
We won't get those percentages
Right,
if we
right.
used it,
If we,
retained it.
if we keep part of it, right, right.
Well,
Or the
you know, the
50%.
first thought that came to mind was, it gave us an option regarding wastewater that we didn't have. Not that
Right.
I'm even proposing going down that route, but remember, we got 125,000 gallons of effluent or some number
Yeah, it was
as part of
something,
our Weston and Sampson wastewater plan. And the development for that half of the property got almost an equivalent, maybe it was 80 or 90,000 gallons a day.
there was a lot there.
Right.
There's a lot
So
there.
we were short by that amount in the overall Weston and Sampson plan. If we acquired that land and decided not to do anything with it, we would have that leaching capacity, which is just another option.
well, it
I'm not
gives us a lot of
proposing
options.
anything, I want that clear.
Right, but it just gives us options,
Yeah.
that's great, options are good.
Mr. Fodes had his hand up.
Oh, I'm sorry, nudge me.
I try, yeah.
Michael, did they indicate what the property was worth today?
No, they didn't mention it. They were actually in the process of getting that market analysis, what they think. So that would actually come along, I believe, when we get the sunk cost.
Do we remember what Gutierrez was on the hook for?
$20 million.
How much?
20 million.
Was it 20 for the whole thing? Or was it just for that piece?
No, for lots A and B, it was $20 million.
So it was about half then.
It's about half of what?
Well, if he was on the hook originally for 20 million, and then he cut the deal with Lincoln Properties for about
And
half
only
the
developed
property.
half.
And he only, yeah, so he paid half. I think it was, they paid half for the Lincoln Property site,
Gotcha.
if I recall.
So it was around
It's
10.
$10 million there.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
also several years later, and
Agreed.
the market has
Agreed, and
changed
if we
substantially.
looked at all those, the pitches that came before them, they picked the one with the most dollar
Right.
signs. If they went down a couple, we probably would have had something, might have had something built right away, which was bringing us tax
Right.
money all the time, and they would have made more money in the end.
And going back to the three options, I mean, I agree, I don't know who was in favor or wasn't in favor, but option 3 should not even be considered because.
Everybody
because
said
now-
dangerous.
Yeah,
Everybody said
you know,
that.
you're taking money off the tax rolls because, you know, an agency will scoop it up at some point and do something.
Option 1 and option 3, we have no control. We'd be out of the picture completely.
Right. We'd be back to square one again.
I did have a quick question. Mr. Chair.
Are you
Mike?
through, Jim?
I am,
I'm
thank
sorry,
you.
I'm sorry.
Jeff?
We mentioned they're trying to find out what the value of the property is right now.
Well,
Well, they're gonna do an
They don't
estimate.
care.
Still doing
It
estimate.
doesn't matter.
they
It
don't,
doesn't matter.
We're gonna have
That's
to-
what I'm-
To me,
that's what I'm-
my analysis.
It's gonna be our
is-
job if we.
Yeah,
we
the
don't-
only
The
thing
sunk
that
cost is their sunk, what
Sunk
they
cost.
consider
Sunk
the
cost.
sunk
So
cost.
we're not, they're not gonna say, well, the property's valued at this much.
Nope.
No.
You should give us.
Right now, the
cover
property is
difference.
a cost center for them. It's an
That's right.
expense.
Right.
Okay.
Right, and they're looking to get rid of the expense, and they're looking to also partner with the town if we're interested in getting, either putting it back in the tax rolls, with us having control and say as to what it's going to be.
so
And
as
they're gonna
long as
take
the
this
sunk
as a-
costs are less than $10 million, we're
No,
gonna.
no, no,
make something.
it's gonna be a small number.
Yeah, but I
know.
mean, it's,
No, I'm-
you know, so for them, it gets it off their books and gives them an accounts receivable when it gets sold. In the meantime, the costs that they've incurred up to this point will have been covered, and they're even.
Could they sell this property to somebody else?
Yes,
Sure they can.
yes.
So
They
they do.
could right now.
Which is
Yeah,
option number
okay.
one.
But they're giving us this option, and one of the other things, again, I want to emphasize, the timing is, once we agree as a town we want to do this, Senator Tarr needs to take this through the legislation process as well. And so we need to make sure in January,
Right.
he's able to do that. So we have to get
Funding
through
in place.
and we have to have the funding for him to do that.
Right. You want to catch him in the next session?
Okay, so we have,
2015 legislation process, that's the one we want to catch in January.
Right.
That's what he's asking us to do.
okay, so by the time, based on the date you gave us, we should have the kind of information that I think we need initially to determine what we want to do.
Yeah.
At our next meeting.
Yes, and the reason I brought it up tonight is I just want to make sure that as a board, everybody has the stomach for option 2 and the willingness to consider it. If you guys just flat out don't want to do this, then I'd just rather tell DCAM not to waste their time,
Right.
out of respect, because you know what? They sent a lot of people to the room, and they've done a lot of work already, and they are very motivated to support the town of North Reading. So,
I mean, from my perspective, I think it's a great opportunity.
I can't disagree
no-brainer.
with you more.
Yeah.
I can't agree with you.
I
Excuse me.
concur. To me, it's an opportunity that we'd be foolish to pass up. And
We've done
and
that
I
before.
don't believe the sunk costs are going to be extraordinary.
No way.
And with the financing options that are being proposed, it's something that I think we can find palatable, and we should
Yeah.
find the money to do it.
Thank you.
Because it's
Bring that up.
a huge parcel of land, whether it's going to be for public use, for, as you suggested, something like that, wastewater treatment, we're short on that kind of space anyway, or for future development, for economic development. I'd rather be in control of our own destiny, in control of the property, than have somebody else
Right.
come in and dictate, and then be responding to their proposals, which we've, for years, which is, again, Lincoln Properties was a compromise.
Yeah.
That was a compromise
It
proposal.
was a
I
compromise.
mean, it was an R&D zoned
Exactly.
parcel, and we had to turn around and zone it residential from, multifamily.
Yeah, and initially, when they proposed it, they wanted to build some condos as part of that project, too.
Right,
They
and we-
Get that out of there.
But, so, again, we ended up in a position where we had to compromise, what our original goals were, what our original plans were, what our original zoning proposals, not proposals, but the zoning maps
Yeah.
actually showed,
Yeah,
in order to react to the state's, in this particular case, the state was actively, they already had Gutierrez on the hook. Gutierrez was looking to make it go. The state wasn't going to get their money until Gutierrez did something. He partnered with Lincoln Property, and they put the pressure on us to change our zoning and accept what we have out there today. So, I mean, we have something on the tax rolls. No, there was a benefit in relation to the 40Bs, but again, as time goes on and
now
well,
we've
age
lost
a little
that
bit,
benefit, yeah.
it created another 400 units, and now we
That's
need
right.
another 40 units of affordable housing. But it did take care of the problem for a while. And it put some tax dollars back into our coffers. But again, it was a compromise proposal and project that we ended up with. It's not what we wanted, It did add kids to the school system. It did add calls from the police department.
Oh, yeah?
And a few other additional services that we need to provide.
Matter what they said it was gonna do all that.
Yeah, so it was,
And there was-
so in this particular
Well,
case,
kids
again,
in
we
the-
didn't have the option back then.
Right.
This option was not available
Right.
to us, and I can tell you unequivocally, if it were available to us at that time,
Yeah.
I for one would have jumped at it. I'd rather have control of it than have someone else dictating to us what's gonna happen there.
You know-
Again, we can afford to wait. It hasn't been on the tax rolls anyway, so.
But Steve, the other nice thing about this, which Danielle brought up, which I forgot about, was they're gonna give us a 10-year interest-free loan
Right.
from the state. We'll sell the property within 10 years.
You think?
Oh, Gutierrez did.
We're gonna,
He did.
we're
Well,
gonna
I
sell.
don't, if you look at
There's a
Gutierrez's
reason, though.
history, he took a whole, several large parcels from the state, from DCAM. And this was probably the hardest one for him to develop.
Just some other background information I have is, he also bought a parcel in Stoneham, the old
Yeah.
Stoneham Hospital.
Yeah, right.
That
I mean, that's it.
he almost lost everything on, and ended up selling a portion of that to the MWRA, and they're putting a tank,
Tank
so.
A big
So,
tank, I see all
yeah,
the
so,
time.
there was other issues other than he
Right.
couldn't
And-
sell it.
Right.
And he's putting apartments in other of his parcels like this. That's how he's managed.
Right.
He get Lincoln Properties is putting, I don't know if it's Lincoln or some of
Well,
the other
that's
guys.
That's
It
the
didn't fall in his
fallback.
priorities.
Right.
That's
The Lincoln
why.
Properties and those types of developers are the fallback for the Gutierrez's of the world.
Right.
And again, that's not what, it was not his original intention, not his
No.
original desire. And when money got tight and he had to come up with the cash, he
Too
had to
many
come up with a
parcels on
plan.
hand.
He had to come up with a plan. But, fortunately, in relation to the project that's out there, the state did work with us significantly in relation to, 40R, 40S, which brought more money into the town coffers, and
43D.
I was extremely grateful for that, but again, it wasn't far from our first choice.
Right.
So I guess the consensus of the board
Absolutely.
is,
Yes,
Forward.
absolutely.
Well,
Option two.
You want me to continue getting the information from
Absolutely.
DCAM,
Yes.
then bring it back to the board?
Mhm.
Okay.
And thank
and
you
we'll
for
put it
doing
on
this,
the
Mike.
agenda for our next meeting, okay?
Mike, thank you for doing this, really.
Okay.
It's good work.
That's, the CPC is taking the board's comments about new opportunities for the town, new revenues. We as the EDC, we have taken it serious, and, this is a good first step.
Working on it.
I don't think there's anyone here for public comment. Let's get,
So other than on the public comment, Mr. Chairman, I did get an email from a resident up on Maple Street and asked me just to raise a couple of issues for public comment. And some of it has to do with running municipal light department, so I probably should have brought it up when they were here. But down on Maple Road, which is up in my neighborhood, the far end,
Thank
it butts Eisenhower Pond Park.
Mhm.
There have been issues there over the last several years in relation to poles that are already situated, most of them in wooded areas, and some sort of easements up there. And
There's a lot of poles in wooded areas up there.
Yeah.
With nothing on them,
with,
too.
with some on them and nothing on them, and now they're starting to string things on them. So the concern from some of the residents
Oh, really?
is, what's taking place up here, and is there gonna be development? And then what's also happening in relation to Eisenhower Pond Park and clearing of some of the land in relation to the Forest Committee, and I think a contract that Greg had previously signed. So Gene Krieger emailed me this afternoon, or this morning, I got it this afternoon. He just wanted me to bring it to the board's attention that at some point in time, she'd like to have some of the resources here within Town Hall, take a look at, the RMLD issue and Verizon in relation to some of the poles up in that area. They've removed some, they've taken wires off, now they're putting them back on. Additionally, there's been some clearing up there, and she wasn't sure if it's part of the Forest Commission people to go up there and take a look at something having to do with Eisenhower Pond Park. And then, what else is there? Trees are being removed, creating big open spaces, which again, were used to be wooded areas. So what I'd like to do is to give this to the acting town administrator, just to follow up with some of the appropriate personnel and maybe get back to Mrs. Krieger.
is this public or private land? Or is, you don't know?
Well, both.
at this
Apparently,
point?
there's some easements up there, but, I live up there, but I've been down and back there, and really, these poles are in the middle of the woods. I mean, apparently, there's a paper street there, and at one point, there are easements to run the lines through, and it runs through down into Appian Way and down where Klaus used to live,
Yeah,
but from my neighborhood, through the woods.
is there development going on down
No, because now we own a lot of it as Eisenhower Pond
there?
Park.
All right.
But they have tried to reach out to RMLD and Verizon in relation to, again, the unsightliness of some of these poles in their yard, and then now putting stuff on the poles, when they're used to looking out at natural vegetation, and it's of concern to them, as to, does Verizon really need it? Does Reading Municipal Light really need it? They've taken some poles out, left some poles there. She hasn't been able to get any rhyme or reason as to what the plan is. And so if we could just help get some answers to the questions.
Well, if Reading Light owns the poles, as they say, they should be able to tell us or have some information about what's going on.
Yeah, she spoke with the new operations manager down there, but she said it was rather confusing. He didn't have access to all the easements. She did some research on the registry of deeds, but again, wasn't clear. And so concerned about development. There's some private wells down there too. And again, one of the other issues she would like to discuss with the town is possibly bringing some public water down Maple Street, because there's a number of residents down there that are all private wells. So, yeah,
The poles that they have there,
they're old.
that old, I was gonna say, they must have had to have come before the Board of Selectmen.
Oh, there's one wire. They probably went to one house, years ago, the house wasn't there anymore. It has since been abandoned, because there are new poles now on Maple Road. These were running through the woods, so it all depends on which way the cow
They
path
may have
was at
been
the time.
obsoleted as a result of further development.
But they're maintaining their rights, Verizon and RMLD, for whatever, just in case, I guess. So there's 2 or 3 issues here, so if we can facilitate getting some answers.
And I'm sorry, they're not putting up new poles, they're putting in wiring. Additional.
Or putting
They put
little
wiring,
boxes,
took wiring
boxes
down.
on the poles themselves for some reason, I don't know.
Guess I wouldn't like that on my property.
No, so,
So what's the action item?
nothing, I would just like to hand it over, have them review it with the appropriate people, and see if there's something we can do to get some answers. The residents, to the residents' questions. So, okay, there you go, Mike. You don't have to say thank you.
Can you forward me the email?
Yes.
Okay, we have the minutes of May 5th, regular and executive session. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the May 5th, 2014 regular session minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Fode. Any discussion, comments?
No, sir.
Mr. Yu.
Yes, in reviewing these minutes, and not only these minutes, but other minutes as well, there's a mention here, let me see if I get this
Can you
right.
get the page number?
Yeah, this, actually, my question really is more in the executive session, so I'll back off.
Okay.
Let me say that.
Hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
You voted on that?
Executive session,
You weren't a member at the time.
That's right, no, I
Yeah.
abstain, I'm
So
sorry.
it's 4-0 and 1, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
1 abstention.
okay.
Okay.
Executive session, May 5th, I imagine that's the same.
I move to approve the May 5th, 2014 executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Fode. Mr. Yule?
Now I have a question. On the minutes, there's mention of what was talked about during executive session. I guess what my question was, regardless of the content, but if it's executive session, and it's something that's still being discussed, that would be discussed further in executive session, such as the discussions with the fire department, for example. This is a learning question for me more than anything else. If it's an executive session and we're still in negotiations with any
But we're-
union, why would it be made public?
We're just voting to
To
approve, we're
executive.
not making them public.
I'm sorry?
We're not voting to make them public, we're just voting to approve them.
This is just approved. These are
But
not
doesn't it
public.
make them a
No.
public record now?
No,
No, you have to release them at a separate
Right.
vote.
Okay,
Separate vote.
okay, thank you. Then
Okay.
that's my question.
So, on the motion for Monday, May 5th, executive session, all in favor?
Aye.
I think we have regular
And
session.
Mr. Yule
I will
abstained.
abstain.
Okay. Now you're on the board, May 7th.
Oh.
Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the May 7, 2014 regular session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Fode. Any discussion? It was just a reorg meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. May 19th, regular session. Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the May 19, 2014 regular session minutes as written.
Second?
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yu. Discussion.
Yes.
Mr. Yu.
Yeah, on the agenda item 7, the carnival permit, the question was asked by Steve whether they needed any more money, and of course, Joe Vino said, yes, we can take money anytime. And it got me thinking on that. Tell me if I'm out of line here, but
Are you modifying the minutes?
no, I'm not.
Save it for...
Save it for later? Okay,
Save it for later.
I'll save it for later, thank you.
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. I think we have an executive session on the 19th.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the May 19th executive session minutes as written.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by Mr. Yule. Discussion? Any? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. And June 7th, regular session.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the June 2nd, 2014 regular session minutes as written. Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the June 16th, 2014 executive session minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Legal bills, Mr. Chairman?
Legal bills for May.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve legal bills for May 2014 in the amount of $7,581.69 as follows. Copeland and Page PC General, $6,519.19. Copeland and Page PC Labor, $918. West Publishing, $144.50. Total $7,581.69.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Fode. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, what are we up to? 3% budget transfer.
3% budget transfer. I went to the Finance Committee meeting last Tuesday, and they did approve, I think there's a signed copy of the recommendation in our packet for the transfer from, 3% transfer, a total of $90,000 from the employee benefits account, which comprises of the health insurance, other insurances, and things like that, so. Discussion.
Well, Mr.
O'Leary?
Chairman, I move to approve a 3% budget transfer from pension and benefits to professional services legal for 2014 in the amount of $90,000.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Yule. Further discussion?
Yes. So, when I was in my pad, so it's that yellow letter, right, that we're talking
Yeah.
about? It includes also the middle school project stuff,
Yeah.
right? And the pensions. The pensions didn't have a number, so I was just
Let me look
curious.
at it again. 'Cause,
We had one number for one part, but we didn't have a number for the other, and I was just curious what it was.
my initial understanding was it was all coming from one place. But I could be wrong.
Transfer from pension and benefits to town council, professional services and legal.
All right, so that number is the only, that's it?
That's it.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you sign it or I sign it. Why don't you sign it as chairman? Okay, there's 3
Okay.
copies here.
These microphones work.
And the next one is to vote to ratify the fire contract. Mr. O'Leary?
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify a memorandum of agreement with the North Reading Firefighters Local 1857 for the period of July 1st, 2013 to June 30th, 2016.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, second by Mr. Fode. Any discussion? Mr. O'Leary, you want to make any comments?
The only comment I have, Mr. Chairman, is, well, a couple of comments. One is I want to certainly recognize the members of the board here for their willingness to come together and further discuss with the Local 1857, come to a disagreement. As you all are aware, we were on the fringe of, we were already involved in mediation and on the verge of arbitration, and one more reach out of the hand, and we were able to shake hands on the agreement. I think it's a good, fair agreement in relation to not only our firefighters, but to the community as a whole. Just as again, their contract expired on June 30th, 2013. So this goes back 1 year. If you recall, all of the contracts with all the other collective bargaining units had already been settled, and we had also settled with all of the bargaining units for the current fiscal year, which is July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015 for 2%. What is proposed in this memorandum of agreement and agreed to does not exceed any other collective bargaining unit contractual agreements in relation to percentage of increase. It calls for a 2% percentage increase effective July 1st, 2013, 2% increase effective July 1st, 2014, and then for July 1st, 2015, a 1% salary increase, and 6 months later, an additional 1%. That fractionalizing of it certainly saves the town about 0.5% from a cash flow standpoint. And again, we appreciate the union's willingness to work with us to assist us to making this affordable. In addition to this, some of the other highlights of the agreement is that the fire department have taken on some additional responsibilities for emergency medical dispatching certifications. We're giving them a one-time bonus of $500 for stepping up to the plate in relation to the 911 system that we put in a few years back. We needed either the police department or the fire department to get these certifications. The firefighters stepped up and got the certification. We're acknowledging that with a one-time $500 bonus. In addition to that, the fire department members have agreed to cut back on their end-of-career sick leave buyback by a substantial amount. They currently get to approximately 900 hours. They've agreed to cut it back to 750. And as a result of that, we've given them a one-time bonus of $4,500 to be paid upon once they reach 7.5 years of service with the community. So very fair contract. In relation to the sick leave buyback, all of us are well aware and cognizant of the costs associated with unfunded liabilities. And the unfunded liabilities, part of that includes end-of-career buybacks. This is a substantial concession on the part of the union, which, again, has been working with us over the last 2 contracts to get us to this point where we're getting down to more reasonable levels and something that's more affordable. This is a true concession on their part and a willingness for them to understand the costs associated with these types of benefits. So it's truly appreciated, their willingness to do that. So the rest of them were other highlights we can go over later on, but again, I want to acknowledge the negotiating team for the Local 1857. They truly wanted to come to an agreement. They went back, they sold to their membership, and it was overwhelmingly ratified last week. So again, congratulations to them, congratulations to the board for bringing us to effectuation, and I would certainly recommend that we ratify.
Mr. Yule?
Yes. Before I was elected, I was wondering what was going on with the contract negotiations with the fire department. And I have to say that, to the credit to the board prior to me coming on board, doing the yeoman's were getting us up to a point where it was a little iffy at that one point. We were concerned about coming to that final agreement, but I think the board got us there. And then I have to say that, and give credit here to Steve for it ain't over till it's over theory. He just came up with an idea, he gave it a shot, and we wound up with a good, positive result, the negotiation. So it's truly a team effort, and I have to say, the fire department and its union were very cooperative from what I can see, and I appreciate that. I think that's to be respected and appreciated as we go forward, and even with future negotiations. It sets a good environment and a good pattern. So I thank the fire union for stepping up, as did you guys, and as did Steve. So thank you to everybody.
I just want to say that, Steve stepped in, and was kind of the transition partner in this negotiation, which is going on. When Sean was the chair, and I were on the committee, and Steve stepped up and took a leadership role. And, what I consider to be one of the more difficult negotiations we've had, managed to come to a settlement. He also had to sell it to the board, and he accomplished that too. So I thank you, Steve, for stepping up and helping me out in that regard. It's much appreciated.
Thank you for that.
So with that, any other comments before? All in favor?
Just one other comment, Mr. Chairman. I happen to be a public employee too, and all too often we're easy targets. But this truly is a case in point where a public employees union, and again, our other unions have done it too in the previous contracts, actually stepped up and assisted us in cutting our costs and our OPEB costs going forward. And it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not an easy thing to sell to their membership. But that means their entire membership recognizes that, there are high costs associated with being an employee for the taxpayers. And this was truly, along with the police contract last time, and then the previous fire contract, DPW, they are assisting us. And again, this was the goal of the board in relation to the collective bargaining, was to help start to curtail some of the costs in the career buybacks. And this was a major effort on everybody stepping up and recognizing the issue. And again, I want to congratulate them as public employees for really doing what's in the best public interest, not necessarily their own.
On the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous?
A couple of things we need to sign, Mr. Chairman.
Did the draft come off of there, or did you draw a line through? Or?
It's not, there is nothing that says draft.
Okay. I'm just going by what was in our packet.
We get to sign it as town administrator.
Trying to remember how to spell your name.
Yeah. I'd also like to acknowledge, however, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sure you read about this, the town council was significant assistance in getting this settled too. Darren Klein did a great job.
Well, we're doing this old and new business. Oh, town administrator report, do you have anything? Michael?
There's not-
sorry,
there's nothing on
that's-
there. It's on the
that's-
agenda.
We'll just change the first page.
What's that?
I was the same.
First page, say draft.
No,
I'm sorry. So we'll just change the first page.
Yes,
it does.
yeah.
But the signature page,
I was looking for-
Signature page is okay.
I was looking for the watermark.
Yeah, but so was I.
Was it tested?
So it's a TA report, is that what we're up to?
TA report, if there is any.
There was no TA report.
There is no TA report?
It's on the
On the
agenda.
agenda.
Not on the agenda.
Okay.
Lucky bugger.
Yeah.
There's 2 pages, maybe one you're in. You have to find the other one.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. O'Leary, old new business?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman, other than again, to thank and congratulate the 4th of July committee to, in relation to reacting again to weather conditions. Not quite as bad as last year's, but again, reacted along with everybody else and did a great job. I want to thank them for their.
Mr. O'Leary?
Yes, likewise, I want to compliment the 4th of July committee. They did a super job. Having to move from one night to another night isn't always an easy thing, but it really filled up as the day progressed. It was a fun day had by everybody, so and no incidents, no problems or anything like that. The rides went well, and they did a great job. I think that having a chance to be there all day and observe all the activity going on, I think hopefully as we go forward, we need to, as a board, see how we can possibly help them achieve some more financial success. One of the things that I had in mind, and I'm just going to throw this out there, is that on our bills, whether it be a water bill, tax bill, or what have you, I'd like us, and I think we discussed this once before when I was on the board, but I guess we didn't go that far after that, but I'd like to see a line there to say, contribute $1 to the, an option, a check that you can make, contribute $1 to the 4th of July committee, because their cost to get this thing done is more probably than it should be, but it is what it is, and if we could see if we can do that as a board and convince the powers to be to put that on one of the bills, either prior to the festivities or 6 months prior to the festivities twice, so that people can make a donation, have an option of making a donation. I don't know how much they get from it or what have you, but $1 is more than no dollars, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd like us to be considering that as we go in the future, if anybody thinks that's a good idea or not. Or something that we can help them out, because they do need help. They work really hard.
Or even on the website, link it, talk to Liz. I mean, they have an account already established, so you just pay your bills online, and
Right.
make a contribution online. Maybe if we could put something out with the finance director.
I know that when I lived in Charlestown, whenever I had to pay a tax bill, you can make a $1 donation for schools or for oil for the needy. You'd get a little flyer, and then you can send that in and so on. So anything that I think that can help, that would be a great idea. But they did a super job. It was a fun day. So that's it.
Mr. Prisco?
Yeah, with our liaison assignments, the Taxation Aid Committee has been moved over to you, Jeff.
Yeah.
I would like to encourage you to try to set up a meeting. I'd like to attend with you. And maybe you and I should meet in advance so we could do a little transition. In a couple of years we've been doing it, we've come a long way. We've put a lot of processes in place. We've organized the process. We have about, I want to say, $11,000 available in our account. We've raised over $1,000 since we got it reactivated again, which is wonderful. But the implementation and getting the word out has been a little slow. And we've had a lot of ideas. We've received some quotes on mailings and things like that. So I'd like to do a transition with you to
Great.
keep that going. I
That'd be
don't want to
perfect.
see that tail off. February is our real big date. We need to have everything in place by then, so if we could start now, I would really appreciate it, and so I'd like to do that transition with you. And I just think it's a wonderful thing that we learned last week that North Reading is ranked one of the 35th safest towns in Massachusetts, so that's a wonderful thing, and chief and all the public safety staff and our administration, I think it's a wonderful thing for our town. And as we start to build our marketing plan for the business development things that we're doing, we're certainly going to grab some of that information and incorporate it into our marketing plan that we're doing, so that's great. I just wanted to let the chief congratulate him and his staff as well.
You all set?
That's it.
Joe?
Just to repeat what everybody else said, I know that, I was away during the 4th of July, but my neighbors and relatives told me what a wonderful time they had, and how the fireworks were probably the best that they've seen in recent years that they can remember, so congratulations to them on what they do with what they have. And again, congratulations to the police department on what Michael just said regarding being one of the safest communities. I appreciate all the efforts of all the guys.
That's all the public safety.
Yeah. All
Yes, I meant to also mention that on July 1st, there was a meeting regarding the Tennessee pipeline. I was unable to attend that meeting, unfortunately, because I was away on vacation. They met in Groton, and I'll have to get more details for you, but communities are meeting, for those who are concerned about it, and we're going to try to get together and again, and see what we can do as far as addressing some of the concerns as a regional group of towns to address the problems that the Tennessee pipeline are bringing before us. So I just wanted to let people know that that's something still going on.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome Jane Brooks to as our board secretary. This is her, I hope the night hasn't been too bad for you.
No, not at all.
And unlike past practice, she's also the internal town board secretary. So she's doing both functions.
Double duty.
Good.
And we look forward to working with you.
Thank you,
And
same
welcome
here.
aboard. I'd like to thank Michael Murphy, our police chief, for stepping up as acting town administrator. He's had a substantial number of interactions with him. He's, as far as I can see, he's doing a fantastic job helping us through this transition. And I want to really appreciate, and the town appreciates what you're doing, Michael.
thank you.
Fireworks. The Fireworks Committee did a real outstanding job. I spent a little time there in the afternoon, then I came back in the evening, and I didn't get in the dunk tank, primarily because of my injury, but Jeff was a board representative, and based on what I know about how long he was in there, he raised a substantial amount of money for including some money he got from me. And I failed to get him in the tank, too.
It's the meat.
But his efforts raised a fair amount of money during that stay. I don't know exactly how long you were in there, but you were in there for about 15, 20 minutes
Oh, I was no longer than
when I got there.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I didn't actually twice.
And my sister-in-law called me and said, if you want to get Jeff, come on down.
Free shot. Well, it wasn't free, but.
But I have to admit, they gave me the microphone, which is the worst thing that they could do, and I threatened to raise taxes unless they dunked me. I threatened to sing unless they dunked me, and so.
Just some observations. I mean, during the afternoon, I guess, it was a constant flow of people, and then, by evening, the crowds just ascended on the place. And I don't know if there were any public safety issues. It seemed like everything was just well
There
under
was some
control.
parking issues. People started to park on Central Street,
Yeah.
and a lot of pedestrian traffic. That was our biggest concern.
No, the officers
No
did a great
incidents.
job
They did.
getting people out of there. I know when we drove out, and there were tons of people crossing, and he had held the traffic up trying to get them through, and they were coming out, everyone left at once, so, great job.
Really super job.
And just right, my sister-in-law was on the committee, said to me, next year we're gonna do the 3-day thing, and clearly, they've got their work cut out to raise some funds, but it was a perfect night. They made the right call, and couldn't have asked for a nicer evening. Mike Gilberto starts on the 4th of August. There's going to be a reception for him here at 9 o'clock. We're going to do the swearing-in ceremony.
On the floor.
It's, 8.
And the public is invited,
Public is
Nine.
invited.
9 a.m.
9 a.m.
here, I presume.
Right. I sent a notice out an invitation out to the board members. There's CIT is running a seminar on e-cigarettes and vaping tomorrow here in room 10, Michael?
Room 10, correct.
Room 10 at 9 o'clock. And the board members are invited. That is not open to the public, correct?
Public's welcome.
Public is welcome.
Yes.
Okay. And then, just a reminder, National Night Out the second National Night Out is Tuesday, August 5th, 5:30 to 7:30. We're looking for some volunteers. Mr. Prisco and Mr. Fode were excellent cooks.
Dunk tank this year, though.
No, man, we're gonna cook.
I've done my
As soon
duty.
as
have
I-
our dunk tank.
I've done my duty.
As soon as I tried to volunteer for the dunk tank last year, they immediately volunteered to cook.
Okay.
But it would be nice if board members could come down and help. It was a great time and a great evening. Hopefully we'll have the same weather.
What is the night out? I'm not familiar with it.
National Night Out,
It's essentially, it's public safety and the citizens get together, and it's all geared towards crime prevention. So we have, I don't know what all the vendors that are booked now, but there's a lot of vendors that will come in and have safety-themed presentations to the public. We also serve food, hamburgers, hot dogs, and fruit. And there are some giveaways too, safety-related giveaways. So last year was our first National Night Out, and we hope to continue this for many years to come. So last year was a little overwhelming. We didn't expect as many as did show up. We had over 500 people attend, which was significant. So it's a crime prevention and a good way for our community impact team to introduce ourselves last year, because it was our first real big public event, and so we hope to continue it as we're going forward.
Now, is it truly a national night out? Or
It is a national night out. There are agencies, not only in the United States, but Canada and other countries as well. So it's the first Tuesday in every August, and there are some communities that have been doing this for over 20 years. So we're one of many agencies involved.
and one example, last year they had the state police dogs down, and they did a demo on finding drugs and things like that. And it was a pretty good.
Big hit. It was a big hit.
I bet.
We hope to have them back this year.
That's all I have. Anything else?
No?
Okay, we want to go back into executive session.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. O'Leary.
I move to re-enter into executive session for the purposes of litigation strategy. Such discussions in open session will have a detrimental impact on the town, and further, the Board of Selectmen will return to open session for the purposes of adjournment.
Second.
Motion by Mr. O'Leary, seconded by
Se-
Mr. Yule. Mr. O'Leary.
Aye.
Aye.
Mr. Yule. Mr. Prisco.
Aye.
Mr. Fode.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.